You know, a lot of black people are drunk off the media's hype about Biden's win. Well, not as many as before, so there has been progress on that front. And the main ones who are out here caping for Biden and Kamala are the usual suspects. The boule, media bootlicks, immigrants, etc. Everyone who's desperate to get a job with the white media or with the incoming administration. Or at the very least, you got entire groups of people, none black by the way, who know that the incoming administration is going to do something for them. The Democrats, through Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's attempt to try to put together a new non-black voter coalition just fell flat. They couldn't even limp across the finish line without black people showing up in appreciable numbers. So that being the case, they've had to give some meager, very, very begrudging lip service to black voters in particular, but black women in specific. And the reason why is they feel that if there's any segment of the black population that might be able to hold on to, hopefully for a little bit longer, it might be black women, if they just put enough phony praise out there. So you've had black women given a pro forma credit as leading the charge to put Kamala in the White House. Well, as I told you, there would be a very brief moment of white media giving phony praise to black women, but that this would give way almost immediately to all the praise being given to other groups, specifically Hispanics, and that's exactly what's happened. This week, we've seen the beginning of the white media pivot. They're not about to make a habit out of, we're just going to go on and on and on and on about how important black women are. They're going to have a short little burst of it where they all say it at once, and then after that, they're going to drop it. This week, we've seen the beginning of this media pivot. Hispanics handed the state of Florida to Donald Trump, but it seems that a lot of people in the white media forgotten about that, particularly Eva Longoria. Seems she didn't get the memo.
But I want to talk about what you just said about the women. The women of color showed up in big ways. Of course, you saw in Georgia what black women have done, but the Latina women were the real heroines here, beating men in turnout in every state and voting for Biden-Harris at an average rate close to 3-1. Now, we've been saying all along that the path to the White House ran through the Latino community, and Latinos turned out in record numbers across this country in states where it really mattered. And I feel like because Florida was the first state to come in that night, the narrative took over that Latinos showed support for Trump, and that just isn't true. And it's not the narrative that needs to be out there. Latinos delivered big for Biden. Latinos flipped Arizona, no question. Latinos delivered Nevada. And then we had historic victories in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan because of Latinos. And so Latinos were a cornerstone to winning this election for Biden.
You get that? There were victories in Pennsylvania and Michigan because of Hispanics. Now, there ain't no doggone Hispanics in any numbers in Pennsylvania. You do have plenty of black people in both Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And Michigan, this woman, whatever she's smoking, clearly is not legal yet. Michigan was flipped because of black people in Detroit. And while she's sitting here slamming her gums about Latino voters in Arizona, notice how she ain't said a doggone word about Florida. Apparently the Latinos in Florida, they don't fit her definition of Latino, or at least they don't fit her narrative. Eva Longoria takes every chance she gets to big up Hispanics, and that's fine. But she decided that she was going to just go ahead. She feels like now the Hispanics she feels have enough numbers, and she hopes political clout, where she can go ahead and say some of the stuff that she's been wanting to say. What are you doing wasting your time with these black people? They don't matter. Listen to how contemptuous and dismissive and disrespectful she is. Well, of course you saw black women in Georgia. Because there's no black women in Detroit. 85% black. There's no black women in Philadelphia, damn near 50% black, if not better. There's no black folks in Pittsburgh, apparently. You see, these were the swing states that were delivered to Joe Biden. He could win without Arizona. He wasn't doing a damn thing without Pennsylvania. But Eva Longoria, she is trying to rewrite the history books here. And it's being done precisely because, as Dr. John Henrik Clarke said, and apparently a lot of black folks, particularly black women, it seems, have forgotten, you have no freaking friends. So for those of you who have been pining away for that black-brown alliance, well, as you can see, you have no partner. Oh, it was Latinas who were the real heroines. Yeah. Black women showed up in Georgia, but as I just got through lying about Pennsylvania and lying about Michigan and lying about Nevada, I just got through lying about those places. I figure I can get away with this too. Black women only showed up in Georgia. Hispanic women were everywhere else, right? Well, apparently they weren't in Florida. Oh, wait. Latinas were the real heroes here. Listen to that. The real heroes? What the hell's that supposed to mean? Because you can't have real heroes unless what you're doing is rebutting the idea of some fake heroes. And she wanted to make that crystal clear. Yeah, you're giving attention to black women here, but Latinas were the real heroes here. They were the real heroes. So who are the fake ones? And you notice that Ari Melber, cable TV's favorite rapping Jewish anchorman, he's nodding his head right along with it. Oh, as far as he's concerned, she's talking gospel truth. I guess he couldn't think of any Jay-Z lyrics to quote at the moment. But this is the white media pushing this. This is going to be a rewriting of what happened in 2020, and they're beginning already. Hell, Donald Trump hasn't even conceded. And they're already beginning with, well, this was actually about Hispanic women. Detroit, that was because that was all the Hispanics right there. That was what happened in Michigan. You see, that community seems to have a real inferiority complex where black people are concerned, because every time they see black people getting any sort of credit, any sort of attention, any sort of accolades or esteem, here they come saying, what about us? That was all us. That being the case, they cannot actually look in the mirror honestly about what's going on. This is what I said before. The Hispanics are never going to actually matter in American politics, not the way black people do, because the Hispanic vote is schizophrenic. The same way that when it comes to ethnic identity, the Hispanic community is all over the place. They're Europeans, they're Indians, don't say anything about the black part. Alexandria Ocasio-Horseface. I've got black ancestry. That doesn't make me black. America has one drop rules, stupid, but that's okay as far as she's concerned. I don't care about the rules. I've got Indian ancestry. That doesn't make me Indian. Notice that she didn't say, I've got white ancestry. That doesn't make me white. No, she's making it clear. I'm ruling out the black part, ruling out the Indian part. Only part that matters is the Spanish read white part. This is what you're dealing with, folks. When Eva Longoria talks about her sisters and how, oh, my sisters, they're tall and blonde. Her sisters are not blonde. None of her sisters are blonde. They're all like her, a bunch of bottle brunettes. And yet the way she tries to talk, she tries to tell the story as if she's some sort of ugly duckling because she claims that her skin is darker than theirs, though you can't tell by looking 90% of the time. And she's trying to make herself out to be some sort of prototypical woman of color. But Eva Longoria has long been doing grimy, dirty, filthy downplaying and disrespect toward the black community. And of course, she wasn't alone. One of her fellow immigrants, this one of Jamaican heritage, Kerry Washington, was coming to the rescue, mammy scarf in tow. I know Eva like a sister. We have been in many trenches together. She is a fighter for all women. Now, this woman sits here and invalidates and erases and completely and thoroughly disrespects black women. Latinas were the real heroes. Yeah, because black women are trying to take credit for something they didn't do, right? That's completely and thoroughly disrespectful. Eva Longoria is one of the main people bitching and complaining about when they say real Americans, they mean white. Well, no, we're going with the Eva Longoria here. When they say real Americans, they're talking about white women. But here comes Kerry Washington to the rescue with bells on. Eva Longoria, she ain't been on television since, by the way. She ain't been on TV at all. She gives one little pathetic, completely pro forma, insincere Twitter tweet or Instagram post saying, oh, well, I'm very sorry if you were offended. And that's it. Oh, Ari Melber, he ain't too anxious to have her on. The reason why is this is the narrative that they're trying to build. Oh, you thought this was going to be black women's moment, didn't you? No. Just because they couldn't make it across the finish line, barely, without black people. That doesn't mean black people are going to be taking any doggone credit alone. Oh no, this is going to be everyone. This is for everyone. You think I'm going to do something that only benefits black women? No. You notice that there's a complete and thorough continuity of that particular policy now, I hope. Oh, no, there's not going to be something just for black people. It's going to be with everybody else. You can say just Hispanics. You can go ahead and lie like Eva Longoria did. You can lie and make up complete fairy tales about imaginary Hispanic enclaves in Michigan that turned the state, who have never been there before, by the way, but black folks who have always delivered the state of Michigan. Well, Eva Longoria is saying it was all about the Hispanics this time. This woman is a complete and thorough nut, but that's okay. White supremacy is not about reality. This is what they're attempting to prop up. And there have been a lot of black people who have been cheering while this has been going on. And if you look on what happened on Twitter, you see that there were a whole lot of Hispanics taking a page out of the white people who they wish they could be's playbook and saying, "Oh, Eva Longoria, you have nothing to apologize about. Oh, these black people, they're just being hypersensitive." They're using all the talking points they picked up from white people who they want to be. So much for that black-brown alliance. This is exactly what we told you would happen. The white media would mention black women for a hot minute, then immediately do the pivot. And here the pivot is. They can see the sea change that's taken place. No, they cannot afford any sort of long-term focus on black women. There's going to be a secondary bout of phony praise for black women from the white media. When it comes time for the inauguration, they're going to be looking and going, well, now that black women are focused on Kamala Harris again, we better have her say something. But after that, that's going to be it. Chapter closed. A critical mass of black women have heard the message of demanding tangibles. And they're making it clear they want something for their vote, and it better not be lip service. The powers that be have seen this. This is a real problem. It's one thing if you can just get black women to show up in numbers and they're just doing the empty-headed you go girl thing, but it's a matter of more and more of them are saying, well, we're doing this, but we're expecting something. And that particular demand is growing. It's not shrinking. See, there's not enough boule bootlicks. There's not enough of these sorority skanks to drown out all of the black women who are standing up for their tangibles. Not enough of these bootlicks to get black people off message and try to get us distracted on something else. So when Biden and Harris inevitably begin doing things for these other groups, when Eva Longoria gets invited to the White House and Kamala Harris says, "Oh, girl, I love your show, love your movie. We're women of color." And they'll be swapping stories about their immigrant roots. "I'm an Asian, by the way, and where are you from? Mexico." Yeah, by the way, notice how Eva Longoria, whenever she starts doing her Hispanic pride thing, she immediately goes from talking like Britney Spears to talking like Rosie Perez. She picks up a freaking accent, and next thing you know, she's talking like freaking Carmen Miranda. I mean, just saying. But don't be too surprised at all when you see Eva Longoria getting the red carpet treatment at the White House with Kerry Washington carrying her bag. And all of them talking with Kamala Harris about their immigrant roots. "Where are you from?" "My mother's from Jamaica. My people are from Mexico. Mine are from India." And it's going to be all about that. Women of color, women of color, women of color. Oh yeah, it's okay to be doing things just for Hispanics. You'll be hearing about that. But just for black people? No. So, for the shea butter bootlicks and all the rest of the clowns out there who still want to think that they've got friends in the Democratic Party, and by the way, I'm not so naive as to think that as the black media with the God knows how many people that we reach, that we don't have a few of these people lurking here, many of them who claim to be black first, who'll talk the right way in a comment section or even a phone call, but then they turn around and do the wrong thing the rest of the time. I'm not so naive as to think we don't have them here, but I think it's safe to say that the honeymoon is over. Some of the buffoons who decided that they were going to go along with the okey doke, I think it's safe to say they're already having an early case of buyer's remorse. They're understanding now that there really is no substitute for not playing along with your own oppression. You see, the Democrats know exactly what they're doing. They're playing these fools like a fiddle, and we will let them. Because the Democrats already got problems all their own. You got Biden's Republicans who didn't materialize. All those Biden Republicans that Rahm Emanuel was prophesying about, well, apparently they didn't make it to the polls. Well, that is unless you count the Hispanics, who Eva Longoria doesn't. Biden and his team understood they had no choice but to mention black women for now. But they also understand that we're at a point now where pats on the head are not going to be sufficient to be pacifying black women. Because there's a black media out there who's reminding them, hey, aren't they supposed to be doing more than just giving you empty words? Biden and Harris were forced to make promises, insincere though they may be. We all know they have no intention of keeping any sort of promises that they make, but the point is, the problem is that they were forced to do it at all. This will be the final straw when they break their word on this one, because what's happened here is, although it was not the optimum route, what's happened is the last bastion in the black community that these political shysters had, it's now going to suffer a fatal blow. Because you're now going to have a lot of black women, particularly young black women, who are going to be looking at this and going, hey, we put all of our chips on Kamala Harris. We let the white media tell us that she was one of us. Man, we fell for the same scam as Obama. And what's going to happen is, though you're not going to have a ton break away, the thing is, this is going to result in a definitive fracturing of what little black female support that the white left thought that they were going to have. This is going to be the last straw for a lot of them. It's going to be a painful lesson, but it's going to be one that for many of them will stick. And do not think that the Democrats, do not think that the left arm of white supremacy, do not think that they cannot see this. They know where this can go. They know exactly where it can go. So as far as they're concerned, we better hurry up and put the finishing touches on that Latino as the only minority that matters. Let's make sure that we play that up. Latinos are now the largest group of eligible non-white voters in the country, blah, 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 blah. They're not even a cohesive whole, so their votes are too fractured. But that's okay. That won't get brought up. Same way Ari Melber decided to let Eva Longoria get away with her lies. The white media is going to be given a pass. You can go ahead and tell whatever lies you want about the Latino electorate. As long as it serves white supremacy's interests, they'll go ahead and say, yeah, there's more Hispanic people than black people in Detroit. That's what delivered Michigan. Nobody's going to look at her and say, wait a minute here. If we fact check the orange man, we got to fact check you too. If we fact check the Trump administration, we got to fact check you too. Now ain't going to be no fact checking going on. You got to prop up that non-black voter coalition, remember? Expect the next 4 years to be the Democrats trying to pander to and bring in every non-black voter group that they possibly can, every non-black voter that they possibly can. They can see the black people are getting on code, so now it's going to be a matter of we got to make some moves and make them quickly. The black folks are breaking bad on us. We got to make some moves and make them quickly and bring in anyone and everyone we can to supplant them. We got to do this. Things are going bad ahead of schedule, so we got to go ahead and hurry this up. Operation Replace the Negroes. Expect to see those black celebrities, particularly ones like Oprah and Beyonce, who were talking about police killings of black people, like Breonna Taylor. Expect to see those black celebrities begin to slink away. They're going to start disappearing. They were there to galvanize black voters, particularly black women, get them engaged again. But what these black celebrities don't know is they're not the driving force anymore. They haven't been for several years now. Sure. You may have black folks who buy their albums or watch them play sports, but when it comes to taking their political cues, they're not looking at whoever the black celebrity of the day is that the white media is presenting to them. So when these guys decide that they're going to walk away from the corpse of Breonna Taylor, the black grassroots will still be here. Same way we've still been here with Sandra Bland. Same way we've still been here with Matrice Richardson. Because we're going to continue to make punishing the police an issue. And as Kamala refuses to take action, as she tries to hide behind do-nothing oversight committees. Many of the black women who you see caping for her, they're going to become demoralized, and then they're going to start changing their rhetoric and pretending as if they saw through her all along. That's because as we continue to make sure that people do not forget all the phony baloney promises she made, all the fake and insincere promises, we're going to make sure none of that gets forgotten. And some of these black women who have been doing just like them old heads did during the Obama years. Well, she just got elected. You can't be asking for nothing. She just got into office. You can't be asking for nothing. Well, she got to get reelected. Wait till the second term. The second term's going to be, Same thing with Obama. The old treadmill, back on the treadmill again. This is what we were warning about, back on the treadmill to nowhere again. But this time there's going to be a lot more black women who are going to see that they got played for fools. Their pride will not allow them to admit, okay, I played along, I conned myself. But the point is, a lot of them are going to start looking and going, you know what, maybe we should have listened. See, as black people, we didn't demand committees, we demanded prosecutions. The pressure on Biden and Kamala will only increase the next 4 years. I know because of the black media, we're going to make sure it increases. At some point, Kamala will be forced to do the exact same thing that Barack Obama did when he wrote that treasonous blue alert executive order. Facing pressure from the black grassroots, Kamala Harris is going to be forced to have to take a side, and she will be forced to take the side of the police because that's whose side she's always been on. And seeing this, that's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back for a lot of black women. Not all of them, probably not even most. But the point is, that is going to be the fatal fracturing that takes place as far as black women, particularly younger black women, goes. You see, nobody's going to come up to Joe Biden and say, your first act as president should be to rescind the blue alert executive order. Nobody's going to bring that up. Nobody's going to make an issue of it. Nobody's going to demand that Joe Biden undo that. You're not going to see Kamala Harris address that at all. No, strengthening and reinforcing and emboldening the enforcement arm of white supremacy, that is a primary function of these political prostitutes. So no, nobody's going to be looking at Joe Biden and saying, hey, when are you going to do away with that stupid blue alert executive order that Obama signed? Meanwhile, Kamala Harris is giving nothing but empty lip service, very brief lip service. Just like Eva Longoria, she decided that she was going to go on Twitter. Oh, I want to speak directly to the black women in our country. Yeah, can't do it on camera. Let's do this on Twitter. You are too often overlooked. Yeah, the same way you overlooked the murder of Matrice Richardson and Breonna Taylor, and yet are asked time and again to step up and be the backbone of our democracy. We could not have done this without you. And now that completely insincere bit of phony praise out of the way, it's time to go ahead and give priority to the immigrants, to the LGBTs, to everybody except for black women. That's where this is going. Oh, you'll have the simple-minded and the weak-willed who will say, oh, Kamala Harris, she's saying something about black women. She's been talking about black women lip service for the longest time. Barack Obama mentioned black people too, except when it came for black people who were being murdered by the police. Oh, he had nothing to say about the murder of Walter Scott, by the way. Walter Scott, his murderer, Michael Slager, got convicted. Obama didn't have nothing to say about that. Oh, but he would sign a blue alert executive order, which did nothing, it contributed nothing, but it was meant to be nothing more than we got the back of the thugs with badges. But you see, the abuse that black women made themselves into the witting or unwitting objects of, that was only just beginning, because you see, this week you had the usual non-black cohorts who have been trying to figure out how do they get some shine for themselves, how they get a little bit of clout for themselves. You have this white Jewish artist, I put artist in quotes, named Bria Geller. She did an absolute vomitous piece of propaganda showing Kamala Harris in her pantsuit. What, no Timberlands? And her shadow being projected on the wall was the shadow of Ruby Bridges. Ruby Bridges was not a child of immigrants. She was one of us. Ruby Bridges, of course, you remember that she was immortalized in the Norman Rockwell painting showing the little black girl having to be escorted to the first integrated school in Louisiana by U.S. Marshals. We should ask whether or not some of Bria Geller's ancestors were some of the people menacing Ruby Bridges. But this is white media propaganda turned up to 1,000. I mean, this is white media propaganda on steroids. Kamala Harris, who laughed and cackled like the witch she is while she talked about locking up the parents of black children for if their kids skip school. Here you have a white so-called artist who is trying to directly link Kamala Harris to one of the black children who she would have the family broken up of if she could find a way to do it. Kamala Harris hates black children. She hates black people. Now, according to the white media, this Bria Geller woman, she came up with this vomitous piece of propaganda, along with a so-called black-owned Bay Area business owner who wouldn't even give his name, by the way, but he is the owner of what he calls Good Trouble. Obviously a lopsided homage to John Lewis. But the thing is, when you actually look up Good Trouble to try to figure out who the hell these guys are, you find that the actual name of the website is WTF America. And what does WTF America do? Well, they're a political satirical design company. Well, this was certainly a satire, though not the funny kind. But this is what this website actually is. Well, I guess he figured calling it Good Trouble would sound a lot better than WTF. Because that's exactly what people would look and say. Black folks who got their heads on straight would look and say when they see this garbage. But this is who this Bria Geller woman got to be her black crash dummy. If anybody asks, hey, what are you doing trying to make money off of this? What the hell are you? Because that's all she sees this is. She sees this as being just a money-making opportunity for herself. Because, hey, there's a lot of stupid money out there. Just like there's a bunch of dumb voters out there. There's a bunch of stupid money out there, too. But this is the woman who came up with this piece of agitprop, or agitcrap as it were. Oh, they think absolutely nothing about taking black people's history and twisting it and perverting it to serve their political aims. They completely and thoroughly threw out 99% of Dr. King's history so that they could come up with a weak, spineless, suffering white brutality with a smile caricature. They didn't want to show the real Dr. King, so they came up with one that would be safe to show to Negroes. They take a few lines from I Had a Dream, and that's pretty much all they tell you. The rest of it they completely throw out. And Kamala Harris, they're attempting to link her to a history that she has nothing to do with. And can you believe the name that they give to this stupid shirt is That Little Girl Was Me? No, the little girl that was Kamala Harris would be wearing a sari. And she would be having a dot on her forehead. Not being satirical here. There's pictures of her. You've seen them. That's who Kamala Harris was as a child. Kamala Harris would not be the little girl going to school. She would be out there with the crowd of anti-black racists saying, what's that nigger doing in our neighborhood? That's who Kamala Harris would be. And we know because she laughed and cackled at the prospect of putting black people in jail. And she didn't just have the prospect of it. She went ahead and went through. She followed through on it. Has Kamala Harris ever so much as admitted that she did it? No. Every time you ask her about it, every time you confront her on it, she says, I'm proud of my record. I held the system accountable. Just dodge, deflect. And all of you black folks out there, particularly black women who are sticking out your chest and beaming and strutting right now, this is who you made excuses for supporting. You rewarded her for her anti-black racism. Whatever happens after this, she will have been rewarded because of you. And she wanted to make it very clear, hey, we're partners in crime now. You stuck up for me, and now you kind of got to continue with the lie, don't you? Don't you? So first we have Eva Longoria, who is saying that Latinas were the real heroines of this election. Black women, they're fake heroines. They're getting a lot of praise and a lot of attention and recognition they don't deserve. Black women aren't the real heroines. After all, how many black women are there in Detroit anyway? Yeah, just because Detroit delivered Michigan, because there are no, truth be told, when you think about it, with the possible exception of California, there really aren't any blue states in America. They're all red states. It's just that you got some blue enclaves in those red states. That's what James Carville meant when he said that Pennsylvania is Philadelphia in the east, Pittsburgh in the west, and Alabama in between. So while we got Ava Longoria creating tall tales about fictional enclaves of Hispanics carrying Michigan and Pennsylvania, making it very clear that black women should not be mentioned, this is her telling the white media, hey, come on, you have permission to go ahead and just ignore all these black women now. And you have Kamala Harris also erasing black American women, by the way. Particularly those whose ancestry goes back to the killing fields of the American South. Oh, you got this immigrant woman coming in. As far as she's concerned, well, you can go ahead and forget about all those black people with their grievances and all of these black people with their demands, because I'm going to be the safe for white supremacy woman of color. And you can go ahead, you can have a guilt-free genocide, because that's what this is meant to represent. Oh, you don't have to worry. You got Kamala Harris, the willing bootlick for white supremacy. So you can go ahead and get rid of and replace all of these former slaves who are making all of this trouble. And you don't have to feel bad about it. Why? I am taking their place. When you talk to me, why, you can feel as if you didn't even commit a genocide, because I'll be there to tell you that you didn't. That's what this picture really represents. Kamala Harris is replacing the history of anti-black racism. Because what she's not going to be doing is she's not going to be demanding reparations. Oh, that little girl was me. Yeah, but that little girl, her roots go back to the killing fields of the American South. They go back to the plantations. They go back to lynchings in this country and church burnings. Things that Kamala Harris and her Jamaican father and her Indian mother don't know a damn thing about. Kamala Harris does not have anything in common with Ruby Bridges, but unfortunately, you couldn't tell Ruby Bridges that. Ruby Bridges apparently has an Instagram account, and proving that Jason Black was speaking the God's honest truth when he said you got to watch these old Negroes. Ruby Bridges showing exactly who and what she is, she decided that she just had to get in on the fun. Quote, I am honored to be a part of this path and grateful to stand alongside you, together with our fellow Americans, as we step into this next chapter of American history. And then she tags Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. This is disgusting. Ruby Bridges has the nerve to mention the word history. She clearly hasn't read history, and she clearly has no idea what real part that she played in it. But it just goes to show that we have to be honest about the civil rights movement. We have to be honest about the push by a number of Negroes to want to integrate. What was their real motivation? Their real motivation was when they grew up in the 1950s, they saw the Mickey Mouse Club. They saw Annette Funicello and Frankie Avalon or whomever, and man, you had a bunch of black people, especially black girls, who desperately wished that could be them on TV. They wanted to be part of the Elks Lodge that wouldn't admit black people. They wanted to be part of this or that school because what they wanted was the status of being honorary Europeans. That's what they really wanted. They were trying to escape blackness. And as far as they're concerned, for a lot of these fools who the white media gave any significant measure of attention to, that was enough for them to say, oh, I'm going to sing the Stars and Stripes forever, and I'm going to wave the flag, and we're all Americans, and I'm going to speak in the colorblind patois of the white left, and well, racism is just an ugly artifact of American society. It certainly isn't the character of the country, mind you. And oh, things are better than they've been in the past. And they start talking all that bull crap. So Ruby Bridges, she wanted to make sure that if there's going to be any attention given to her obliquely, she wants to make sure, oh, you over here, I'm still alive, by the way. This is supposed to be, this is why the white media holds up certain individuals to be the heroes. This is why they consider Ruby Bridges and John Conyers to be icons. They're icons for the dominant society. Because these people happen to be trophies of black folks who are desperate to get white acceptance. That means that white power is in control. These are black people who will take any measure of abuse from white people, and they're not going to stand up for themselves, not going to fight back, and they're definitely not going to talk back at any point in their lives. Now, I do not expect a 6-year-old black girl whose parents said, we need you to go to that school because we want to feel as if we're accepted by white people, whether they want us or not. I don't expect her to stand up to white supremacy at her age, but when she gets to be a goddamn senior citizen, at some point, some of those brain cells are supposed to kick in. I want black people, particularly young black people, to take a look at this. You don't have any elders, or rather, you got damn few of them. In the black community, we don't really have any elders. We just got a bunch of old people running around. And you got to watch these old people, because the problem is, many of them, I would love to say that they got a pair of tap dance shoes in the closet. Hell, most of them wear the freaking tap dance shoes 24/7. They wear their tap dance shoes to bed. And you can always smell the rancid stench of butter biscuits on them. Go ahead and take a look at their collar. Look at the corner of their mouth. You can see some of the crumbs. So between Eva Longoria and Kamala Harris, why the erasure of black women? They got it covered top to bottom. They're erasing black women. Whatever black women did just last week, literally just last week, Eva Longoria is erasing that. And what black women did last century, Kamala Harris, with some help from some white liberals, she's erasing that too. It is an absolute perversion. It is blasphemous for anybody to call themselves comparing Kamala Harris to the black children who integrated the schools in the mid-20th century. Kamala Harris prides herself on locking up black parents and using the school system as her pretense for it. Kamala Harris has been using her law degree to fight an anti-black war against black people in the courts. And to call anyone to call themselves deciding they're going to give permission to Kamala Harris to be a surrogate black person, a surrogate survivor of the hell of American slavery when this woman had nothing to do with it, showed up after we had done all the freaking heavy lifting and the fighting, then here her folks show up. And she's claiming, oh, that little black girl, that was me. No, we cannot allow any rewriting of our history, because the reason that they're trying to rewrite our history is so that they can write us out of it, and that always is the precursor to eliminating a people physically. You start off by making sure we're not going to be mentioning these guys very much, because we don't want too many questions to get asked when these guys start disappearing en masse. This image shows exactly what the goal is. The goal is you can forget about that former shadow, that old ghost of racism in America. Why, you don't have to worry about that. Why, we've got the giant Kamala Harris here. And this is going to be, you can go ahead and think of her as being the new, whenever you say black, you can go ahead and think of her as being the new black woman, a black woman, quote unquote black, who will have no grievance with slavery because her family was not caught up in it. Don't have to worry about her mentioning Jim Crow. Her family had nothing to do with that. Black codes, segregation. Hell, her family showed up after all that was over. But she's also better than that. She's only going to talk about how great America is. There is no racism. If it is, well, it's a vestige of the past, just a nagging habit that some people have, but it's certainly not an impediment to progress. Why, it wasn't in her case. She got her law degree, then immediately went to the very top of California political circles. Well, after she was in the bottom of the circles, happened to do with low-down Willie Brown's plaything. But after that, she had a short sojourn from the California Attorney General's office to the U.S. Senate, and now she's going to be vice president. Oh, why? Hers is an uninterrupted success story. And that's going to be the entire point. Kamala Harris does not have any stories about her or any of her ancestors having to be escorted to school by U.S. Marshals because of crowds of racist white people threatening to lynch a child. She doesn't have any stories like that. No one that she knows does. Her mother doesn't. Her Indian mother doesn't. Her Jamaican father doesn't. So it is blasphemous for her, for any white person or for Kamala to try to compare themselves to the black children who integrated the schools. But that's what they're trying to do. And the idea is this is going to be the replacement. Somebody who is going to be compliant with and submissive to the whims of white supremacy. Oh, don't expect her to say anything to remind the people who threatened Ruby Bridges as a child, hey, you got a debt that you owe us and it ain't been paid. Nah, Kamala Harris, she's going to be here for everyone. Except for the Ruby Bridges. What a damn shame the Ruby Bridges doesn't get that. But some black people, they are so desirous for attention from the white powers that be, anything that even smacks of attention from the dominant society, they don't care. They'll risk their lives for it. They don't care. They'll offer up the rest of us as human sacrifices for it. They don't care. Well, you had better care. Because it's your safety and your life that's on the line here. All these fools who are trying to pretend as if they don't see this garbage going on. There's a whole lot of black folks, they don't want to have to see this because a lot of them are thinking to themselves, well, I'm just going to try to get mine, except you're not going to be getting anything. I mean, they're being bold about it. The idea that, oh, we're going to start erasing you black people. Oh, we're going to start erasing you wholesale. They're being bolded in your face about it. And there's going to be a lot of black people who are going to be trying to help them do it. So it's going to be our job to make sure that everyone is put on notice and no one is allowed to forget. No one's going to be allowed to deny what they've said and done. Kamala Harris will not be allowed to run from her record. And all of these boule bootlicks, not to mention all of these tap dancing Negroes in comment sections who you see online who are calling themselves celebrating this garbage. A lot of people who are low-key supporting Kamala Harris and acting as if this is some sort of victory for them. They're not going to be allowed to forget about the fact that they helped to prop up this garbage. When it comes time for Kamala Harris to do her part to promote the war against black people in this country, a lot of these fools who right now are celebrating and acting as if, oh, this is a win for black women, they're going to be the main ones who are going to be turning around going, oh, she was just so evil. I knew that she was bad. I knew that she was bad. They're going to be the hardest ones. They're going to be the ones making the most noise because they're going to be trying to throw everybody off their scent. We know who the real soldiers are and we know who the phony ones are. And just as we're not going to allow Kamala Harris to forget about the part that she's played in all this, all the black folks who have been playing footsie with this foot soldier for white supremacy, all the black folks who think that it's cute to try to pretend as if, oh, well, we were doing the right thing when you guys finally see a firestorm of anti-black violence come down and you see that Kamala Harris is going to be aiding and abetting it. She's going to be helping to push it and justify it. And all the while, she's going to be using her alleged on again, off again blackness. She'll claim to be black for a hot second when it comes time to justify violence against us. Oh, what about Breonna Taylor? What are you going to do about her? Well, you know, as a black woman, I definitely understand that, just like Barack Obama, you know, Trayvon Martin, if I had a son, he'd look like him. I'm not going to do anything to get justice for Trayvon. I'm not going to do anything to punish George Zimmerman, but if I had a son, he'd look just like him. That's the game that's going to be played. And you're going to have a lot of black women, the same fools who were online saying that, well, you know, Kamala Harris, we can overlook her judicial record because, well, those black people, they deserve to go to jail. Well, in that case, then, a lot of those fools, they're going to be the ones getting gunned down. And Kamala Harris, she'll be making excuses for that, too. But understand, as the black media, we're not going to be out here putting on the cape for every Tom, Dick, and Harry who gets gunned down by the police. We're going to be sticking up for people who are on code. Because at this point, everybody's choosing their sides, and there's too many black folks who are trying to play the game of, well, I'm going to make nice with white supremacy as long as I think that they're still in charge. And, well, as long as I think that black empowerment might lose, as long as it looks like the tide's not exactly overwhelmingly in their favor. Yeah, I see they're building steam, but, I think that I can play both sides against the middle. I think I can have a toe over here in white supremacy and a toe in black empowerment. So I think I can get goodies from both. Black empowerment is not about giving goodies to the bootlicks, the suck-ups, the sycophants, the fakers, phonies, frauds, and fools. We're not about that. I can tell you right now, while I do give credit to Ruby Bridges for what she did as a child, because it does take courage to do what she did, regardless of whether or not her parents put her up to it, that doesn't change the fact that she was the one who had to do that walk. So that being the case, I give credit to her for that. But I give absolutely no credit to her for what she's become. At some point, you're supposed to put aside whatever feelings of codependency you might have picked up. But then again, when you have a child who's rude, we don't know what kind of upbringing she had. But you know what? Black people are supposed to know better. After everything we've been through, we're supposed to know better. So I'm sorry, I ain't making too many excuses. Can't. Not at this point. So the fools who thought that Kamala Harris was going to be singing their praises, well, what you see is she's cutting the song real short. And you're seeing that the song is probably going to be sung partially in Spanish if Eva Longoria has her way, and the white media is going to be backing them up every step of the way because this is the plan. And don't expect Kamala Harris to say anything, just like Ruby Bridges doesn't seem to have much to say. Oh yeah, there's going to be a whole lot of Negroes who are going to be thinking that it's cute to play along with white supremacy until white supremacy goes ahead and makes it clear, okay, playtime is over. But you know what? We're not crying any tears for them. Because coming to the shocking realization that your pal Cop Mala played you for a fool, or rather you played along because you are a fool, that's one way to learn how wrong you are. But the other way to learn how wrong you are is when Kamala goes ahead and gives the order, okay, now it's time to get rid of these dumb Negroes. That's another way to learn. And a lot of black folks who think to themselves that somehow her election, her becoming vice president is somehow going to translate to bragging rights for them, they're going to learn exactly how foolish they were. If they're lucky, hopefully it won't have to be a final lesson.